Today is August 16th, 2026, and welcome to the 501st episode of the So Video Games Podcast. Here on the show, I talk about any game at all, including new stuff, old stuff, and anything in between. My name is Brad Galloway, and I am the one-man host of this show. I'm also the editor of GameCritics.com, a reviews website that offers full accessibility info on every review that we publish. Hello! Thank you all for joining me on this lovely Sunday afternoon. It has been kind of lovely. It's been kind of weird too. Meant to get this podcast rolling a couple hours ago, but there's just like life, and it was just like the perfect weather for napping, which is not something I think I would have ever said maybe 20 or 30 years ago. But now that I'm getting a little older, I can see the value in a good nap, I guess. And it was just that day. It was just like the right lighting, the right temperature. The wife was here. She was hanging, and we're just like, I don't know. Maybe today's a nap day. I didn't want it to be because I like to be pretty productive, pretty busy, but I think today was a nap day. So kicking this off a little later in the afternoon than I usually do, sipping on a strawberry apricot Red Bull. Didn't know they even made that flavor. Having some of that now, which is pretty good. Had a nice lunch earlier this afternoon. The wife and I went out. We spent a lot of time cleaning up the house yesterday. And neither one of us wanted to make it dirty by making more food. And so we're like, fuck it. We're going to go out and get a burger. We live pretty close to a place called Boss Burger, which is a local chain. They're pretty good. Lower prices than the average around here. I think affordability is one of their hallmarks. Quality is very good for what you get. And with the two of us going, with my son, fucking off and doing something with his friends, we don't have to pay for a third person. Makes it even more affordable. I got the double patty with cheese, and then he added a slice of ham on top of that. And man, I think that's like my favorite burger these days. Makes me sound like an incredible pig, I know, but man, it was pretty good. We eat some fries with that, and it's good times, good times. All right, let's kick things off. Let's get things going. It's going to be a weird show today. Feeling a little bit mellow, feeling a little bit chill. I don't have a huge agenda full of stuff. Because of like life reasons. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but just FYI, fairly busy outside of the games track. I mean, I do GameCritics.com. That keeps me pretty busy during the week as it is. I do So Video Games, which you're listening to now. And then in addition to that, I am a sign language interpreter. So I do a lot of projects. I'm not freelancing as much as I used to, which is where like, you drive around to people's locations and show up and stand in front of a crowd and do whatever. Not doing so much of that anymore. More of a behind the scenes kind of guy, kind of transitioning. I think I've mentioned this before, but in this line of work, when you are a freelance interpreter, you really only have basically two tracks. You either keep working until you die or you become a teacher. And many of my friends have just kept going until they've died. I've actually had several friends who have died. So that's always kind of a bummer. But the other group are teaching, and I, not ready to die yet. Knock on wood. Knock, knock, knock. Still got some couple good years left in me, and I don't really want to teach formally. So I've been trying to create a third track, which is like accessibility or doing other things. So, I take on a lot of projects where I add subtitles to things. I do voiceovers for things. I do, interpretations where I take legal documents or any kind of written information and turn that into sign language. We make videos, we make QR codes that lead to sign language videos, so forth and so on. And so I actually just got hooked back up with a company. I am not at liberty to disclose their name at the moment, but they're kind of a subcontractor for some of the biggest entertainment companies in the country, and they are looking for more ASL. So I signed back up. I worked with them a couple years ago, and it was a pretty good connect. And then, I don't know, business fell off or whatever, and they didn't need me anymore. Life of a freelancer, that's how it goes. But they're expecting a lot of business to pick up in 27, so they're scaling back up, and they wanted me to come back aboard. So I'll be doing some of that as well. So that may be one more thing on top of my plate. And that, in addition to all my other various gigs, I'm teaching kids how to interpret right now, which is really rewarding. So I feel like my plate is pretty full at the moment. So we'll see how that goes. Just FYI, in case things get slow or delayed. I love doing the game stuff. I love doing Game Critics. I love doing So Video Games. But you got to pay the bills because we live in a capitalist society. I wish that it was otherwise. So the money stuff's got to come first. Just giving that a heads up in case things kind of slow down in the next couple months or so. I might get busy. All right, what else is going on here? People say they want some updates. Oh yeah, okay. Other updates. Responding to feedback, which I will give further commentary on a little bit later in the show when we get to questions. Chicken update. This was kind of an eventful week for the chickens. Number one, I am behind the curve. I need to get the incubation area set up for my incoming chicks. Going to be getting my new chicks in about 2 weeks. That includes all of the exotic chicks and the giant chicks. And so I need to hurry up and get my butt in gear and get that going. But otherwise, one of our original girls, one of the very first chickens we ever got, she is like an Americana, and it's Americauna. I believe that's right. She is a lovely bird, very gentle tempered, very sweet. We've had her. She was one of the very first chickens we ever got in the very first batch. And she's just been chugging along. Her sister died a while ago, and that was pretty sad. She was sad when her sister died. But she's been doing okay, and things are fine. And then I noticed she was doing not so fine earlier this week. She was very listless, staying inside the egg box, which is something she never does. And it looks like she was just like sitting there and just feeling miserable, which is really weird. I mean, chickens are kind of like they're super, super healthy, and then all of a sudden they're dead. Like you don't get a lot of like in between. Sometimes you'll get like a hurt foot, and you'll notice them limping. Or maybe you'll see a couple of the telltale signs, but in many cases, it's like they're totally fine and then they're dead. And so sometimes you don't get a lot of notice, right? But in this case, I did get some notice. She looked like just really just not good. So I brought her out of the egg box, got her some water. She drank a little bit, which was good, but just wasn't really moving very much, which is very unusual for her. And I was like, oh gosh, what's going on with her? I'm not sure what's happening. So you can give a chicken like a basic, basic checkup. You can check their underside, check for anything that feels weird. If it feels distended or swollen, check their throat and see how that felt. Her throat felt a little bit swollen, which is weird, but not crazy so. And so I was just kind of keep an eye on her. Didn't really notice anything at first, but something was off. I just watched it for a day and she seemed to be going downhill. And I was getting kind of concerned because, all good things must come to an end, and chickens don't have an extremely long lifespan, right? I mean, I guess if you take super good care of a chicken, every once in a while you can get one to live for like 10 years, maybe 12 years. I think 12 is the longest I've ever heard of a single like barnyard type chicken living. Usually it's more like 5 years, 6 years, something like that. And, at some point Cardamom's going to leave, and I'll be really sad when that happens, but I did not feel like it was her time. And so I kept a closer eye on her, and I got some gloves out. I was going to give her an examination, a deeper examination. I'm becoming quite the barnyard vet, in case you can't tell. And she had like a lot of like diarrhea, and I'm like, okay, so that's super unusual for her and just for chickens in general. So we got her a bath. And something that you might not know is when you have chickens, you're going to be often giving them a bath. Nobody tells you that, but it's one of the best ways to figure out what's going on with the chicken is like dunk them in some water, because then you can like clean up their feathers. You can get a really good look at their back end. You can kind of just take a look at what's going on. So you end up giving chickens a bath, and baths help them a lot because they only have one opening in the back end, the vent. They pee and poop and lay eggs and do all their business out of that one specific opening, very much like reptiles in that way. And so if anything's going on, you can often see what's going on in the vent. So just, you're going to be looking at a lot of chicken butts. And so we gave her a bath. I shaved her butt. And so she has like a bare butt with no feathers on it because I needed to see clearly. And lo and behold, there was something sticking out of her butt. I'm sorry if this is TMI. Feel free to skip ahead a minute or two if you wish. And so I'm like, okay, something's wrong here. Had to check it out. And so I pulled that thing out, and it was kind of like we call them a quitter egg. I'm not sure what the exact term is, but sometimes a chicken will get like this egg that doesn't quite happen. Like it's about to lay an egg, and I don't even know what even causes it. It's super random. You can go like years without getting one, and then you'll get one where it's like the shell is like paper thin, like literally as thin as paper. It's soft. It's bendy. Sometimes it's rubbery. And oftentimes the yolk will just break out of it because it's so weak. Every once in a while, someone will lay one successfully, and you'll get this like perfectly like jelly-like transparent egg, which is just fucking weird. You can't do anything with it. You can't eat them. They're just this weird aberration that happens. But it looked like she had a quitter that burst inside of her. And so I was like, oh shit, this isn't diarrhea. This is egg stuff that leaked out of her, and she just got stuck, and the shell was trapped inside of her vent. So I'm like, okay, so I know how to deal with this. So, had the gloves on, let her soak for a little bit. I was able to extract the quitter shell, and it all came out like in one piece. It almost looked like a snake skin, if you know what that looks like. washed her up a little bit more, put her back out in the yard, and kept an eye on her. And I'm happy to say that she's doing fine. She's back to full health. It was the quitter that was really dragging her down, and she would have died. She definitely would have died if it had gone any longer, another day or two. But with extracting that and washing her off and getting her back on her feet, she's totally fine. She's back to normal now. And she's certainly an older chicken. Like I said, she's one of our oldest ladies, but she's doing okay. She's eating, walking around. She's all fine. So I'm very proud to report that I pretty much saved her life. Not trying to seem like a hero or anything, but I think that's just what you do when you have chickens. You just save their lives every so often, because chickens they're fragile little birds sometimes. So, okay, there's the update on cardamom. The other update, another reason why I'm kind of behind the curve this week is I got my shingles vaccine. I talked about it in the Discord. I got my shingles. I actually had shingles maybe like 15 years ago. Got it when I was like 35 or 40, give or take, which is way earlier than you're supposed to get shingles, but it can be stress induced. And at that time I was going through like a lot of stress, like crazy stress. So it makes sense that I got it at that time. Basically, if you don't know, shingles is like the remnants of chickenpox. You get chickenpox at some point, and then the virus goes dormant in your body, and sometimes it stays dormant forever. But if it wakes back up, it becomes shingles. And shingles is a motherfucker. If you've ever had shingles, it infects your nerves, and it sets your nerves on fire. And so you're getting these pain signals 24/7, even if you're not really doing anything. I had shingles like on my ribs and on my side and on my leg and my hip. And I legit thought I had busted every rib in my rib cage. I mean, I woke up from bed, so like I knew I hadn't been in an accident or anything, but it felt like all my bones were broken on that side. Couldn't move. Even having air blow on me was painful. So shingles is a motherfucker, and I don't play. So I do believe in science. I do believe in vaccines. I went to the doc to get my shingles vaccine, and it had been a while since I had gotten the shingles vaccine, more than 5 years. And the nurse did not warn me there could be side effects. I'm like, so what's the side effect? She's like, oh, it might hurt where the needle goes in. And I'm like, okay, no big deal. I can just, I'll just lift some weights or something, or just move my arm around and it'll be fine. She's like, yeah, no big deal. It's all fine. Says the person who's never fucking got a shingles vaccine, because I got that shingles vaccine and about 6 hours later, I was so sick, dude. I was so sick. It felt like I had like hella flu. I was feverish. I was sweating. I had the chills, had the shakes. I had nausea. I was weak. I was tired. It lasted for like almost exactly like 48 hours, like almost to the dot 48 hours. And then after that 48 hours, I was like, boom, fine, done, over. And it was a fucking vaccine. So I ended up taking like a day and a half off this week that I wasn't planning to. And I'm behind on that. So I guess if you're anywhere near your shingles vaccine, heads up, you may get side effects where it makes you fucking sick. I was so sick. Do not like being sick at all. And that sucked. But anyway. All right. So those are the updates. I don't have any games related housekeeping. It's just like life stuff right now. Today's going to be a weird show, folks. In case you can't already tell, today's going to be a weird show. I'm going to just like stumble fuck my way through this and we'll just see what happens. I do have some games to talk about for reals. And we'll talk about some other things as well. But this may just be a rambly show. Sipping on my strawberry apricot Red Bull here. Got some water as well. And we're going to just get through this together, folks. Before we move on to other things, shout out to Tim Van Ingen, old friend Tim Van Ingen, also known as Zolbrod. What up, bro? I just got a notification saying that Tim has joined the Patreon for the first time. So thank you very much, Tim. I really, really appreciate it. Every single dollar counts, and this is absolutely true. So appreciate you coming aboard, brother. Bump, bump. Also, great news. Incident Electron has upped their tier. So Incident, thank you very, very much. I super, super appreciate it. I know that money is a concern for a lot of people these days. It's a concern for me. I'm sure it's a concern for you. I'm sure it's a concern for a lot of good people out there. So anybody chipping in at all to this show is mega, mega appreciated. And anybody that goes like the next tier up is like super, super my hero, man. So thank you very much, Incident Electron. Really, really appreciate you. And also thank you so much, Tim, for coming aboard. It really helps. And if you like this show, if you want to help support this show, you want to chip in on the Patreon, you can do that. You are more than welcome. I would love it. I'll have some information on how to do that a little bit later on in the show. All right. Let's pick it back up here. Let's see. Oh, before I move on to questions, the good people of the Patreon did give me a bunch of questions to answer this week. Thank you very much to all you folks. I'll get to those in just 1 second. Just a heads up that Rhea Winton over at Game If You Are, which is a games PR company, is starting a brand new kind of initiative to really focus on indie games small teams, small developers, small games, people who want to get their game out there, but maybe don't necessarily want to rely or don't have the big bucks, to put out a bunch of ad spend or copy spend or whatever. If you are a small developer, if you are a single developer, if you have a small game, small team, and you really want to get your thing out there and you just don't have the budget for a big PR push with one of the larger PR companies, Game If You Are is a great company. They are celebrating their 10-year anniversary, so congratulations to Game If You Are. And I have worked with Ria in the past. She's great, and she is spearheading this project. So please get in touch with Ria if you are a small game, small team, small developer, and you're looking for some representation to get out there in front of eyeballs just like mine. If you want to reach game websites, game influencers, games writers, people like that, Game If You Are can certainly help you do that. So reach out to Ria, RIA at gameifyouare.com. So give them a shout. If that sounds like you, they can give you quite possibly the boost you need to get a toehold in this industry. So there you go. Heads up. Okay, like I just mentioned, I had the good people of the Discord send me some questions. I wasn't sure if I was going to have a lot to talk about this week, so I wanted to be able to provide some kind of substance for this show, and they were kind enough to grace me with a few questions. A lot of these are really good questions. So I will commence to reading those now. BT262 says, you could do a list of the top games you played this year. Doesn't necessarily mean they came out this year. I always love these sorts of lists. And Dave C seconds that and says, it's a little later than the halfway point of the year, but a review of 2026 would be cool. Okay, cool. Yeah, let me do that real quick. I keep lists, and so doing something like this is pretty easy for me to do because I kind of track things as I go rather than waiting until December and trying to look backwards at the year and trying to figure out what I played. I keep everything, as I play it, I mark it down. If I see something that looks like a good contender, I'll put a little asterisk by it or whatever, or highlight it or something. So I've got like lists and stuff, which is good. I'm not going to give you my specific 2026 what might be game of the year list because I think that might be giving away the secret too soon. I don't have a full list yet. I think I've only got, I want to say 6 games on it. And if I gave you that list, there wouldn't be any surprises whatsoever by the time I got around to December. And I don't want to do that. No one likes a spoiled surprise, even if you say you do. I know you really don't. So let me go through a quick list of stuff. I'll just read these off. And if I have a comment, I'll say it. If I don't, I don't. But these are things that I have enjoyed playing this year. It's been a weird year, very weird year. And I know that we say that every year, but I really mean it this time. I really feel like this has been a weird year. So, started off the year going back to Graveyard Keeper. Definitely not from this year. It is probably my biggest white whale. It is probably the game that I most adore and enjoy and respect and love and really want to finish. And it is just such a massive game. It is such a big game. It is such a deep game. It is so detailed. There's so much to it, and I don't want to miss even a moment of it. So then I just, oh man, it's like, this is my, I think, 3rd or 4th playthrough. I've gotten further than I've ever gotten, but this is the shit. I know I've talked about it a bunch. If you heard this show, you've probably heard me go on and on about Graveyard Keeper. I won't shut up about it. But now that the sequel is coming this year, I'm double fucked because not only have I not finished the first one, the idea of playing 2 Graveyard Keepers at the same time is like absolutely no way. Can't do it. But Graveyard Keeper is the absolute shit. Love that. Played Cairn. I think that's probably one of my absolute front runners this year. What a interesting, amazing experience. I even went and interviewed the developer, one of the developers, the creative director. That became a whole show that's here in the archives here. So you can hear my discussion with the people from Cairn, if you like. That's some real good shit going on there. Deathless, the Hero Quest, is I think one of my favorite deck builders so far this year. That's a good one. Neo 3, taking the deep, nuanced, semi-Souls-like combat of Neo and putting in a fully open world has been great. Really enjoyed it. But again, it's a huge game. It's huge. And much like Graveyard Keeper, don't want to miss any of that. And so I had to put a pin in it to come back to it. But I was enjoying it. I like Neo in general. I think Neo is a great game. And I enjoyed number 1, number 2. I think those are both great games. Finished them both. And number 3, definitely something I'm going to keep chipping away at, but it's just so large. I had to put a pin in it. I couldn't keep putting time into it because I needed to get to other things. Vampire Therapist. I don't hear anybody. I am the only person I have ever heard talk about Vampire Therapist, and that is a crime because Vampire Therapist is fucking brilliant. And everybody listening to the show, you owe it to yourself to at least check it out. It's on console now. It's on PC and PlayStation. I'm not sure about Switch or Xbox, but like it's at least on one console, if not more. This is literally about a cowboy who becomes a vampire, who becomes a therapist. I mean, what else do I fucking got to say? Like, what else is there to say? Like, realistically, nothing. That sold it right there. There's nothing else to know about it. Just go and do that. It uses actual psychological concepts, actual therapy concepts. It's a visual novel. It's queer friendly. It's vampire friendly. I mean, the art is fantastic. The voices are fantastic. Do yourself a freaking favor and please check out Vampire Therapist. I can't be the only person on earth to play this game. There's got to be somebody else out there that appreciates this game. Showgunners was a team-based tactics kind of XCOM-like set in a Running Man universe. That was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed that one. Star Trek Voyages. No, that's not. Oh boy. Whoa, boy. Do I even Star Trek, bro? Actually, I don't. Star Trek Voyager. What an asshole I am. Star Trek Voyager Across the Unknown. Loved it. It's like a resource management, ship management recreation of Star Trek Voyager. What a belter. I mean, if you like Star Trek, you're going to like it 10 times more. But even if you don't like Star Trek, or if you don't know about it, if you never watched Voyager, it's still a great resources game. I just love the scale of it. I just love how they approached it. A lot of great ideas in there. Got the ant farm view when you're building out your ship and meeting aliens and space combat. Just what a great game. Love that one a lot. Sumerian 6, another XCOM-like team-based tactics. That one is great. Follows in the me formula of fantastic design about superpowered soldiers fighting fucking Nazis in World War II and kill all them Nazis. Kill them all. I killed literally every Nazi in that game, yo. I didn't let a single one live, and you can take that to the bank. Every level I left, there was no one left alive. That's how I roll. So Sumerian 6 was great. Let Them Come Onslaught was a Survivors-like, Vampire Survivors-like. That one was great. Loved it. A lot of little nuances, a lot of neat twists to it. That's good stuff for sure. Pragmata, if you want third-person action. That was way more fun than I thought it was going to be. Having Astronaut Hugh and his little girl sidekick, who was actually a robot android, go along with him. Fast, really tight, real-time action. A lot of jet boosting. A lot of shooting robots. A lot of like big bosses, like Wham Bam Spectacle. A lot of good stuff. Pragmata was just like really fun. Like a lot of it was really fun. Froggy Hates Snow, probably my favorite roguelike of the year, like bar none, where you play a frog who is inside a snowstorm and you're in like a little heat bubble and you just dig snow. You dig, like that's what you do. You dig snow. That's all you do. You dig around snow and you make trails in the snow and you find stuff in the snow and you have these little goals that go along with you as you're digging. That's all it is, and it sounds crazy, but that was one of the best games I played all year. So fucking fun. If you like roguelikes, there's so many cool ideas in that game. So many twists on items and improvisation and builds and unlocks and stuff. Like it's so low key and demure and thoughtful. But man, like once you get into that, if you like roguelike, this is like the roguelike for people who like roguelikes, right? Like I don't think the average person would get addicted to it like the way that I was, but if you play a lot of roguelikes, you'll be like, oh, I know that this thing is doing this different thing that other roguelikes don't do. And you're like, oh, look at this cool idea that other roguelikes haven't tried before that other people wouldn't really know unless you've actually been through like a million roguelikes, right? So it's like the connoisseur's roguelike. And for that reason, much like, I don't know, like Truffles or Squid Ink or something, like it's not for everybody. But man, Froggy Hates Snow. I thought that was just the absolute shit. Could not put that motherfucker down. I played it like constantly until I finished it. And then when I was done, I was like, is there more? Because I would like some more. That's how good I liked it. Black Flag, of course, still playing that. That's another huge experience. Much like Neo 3, much like Graveyard Keeper. It's good. Everything about it is good. I've talked about it a bunch already. You know, pirates, you're doing assassin stuff, boats. I mean, what you know Black Flag. If you listen to the show, you know Black Flag. But it's a huge game. And like the huge games, I think are kind of a problem because I'm on such a tight schedule. Gotta, do the content mill every week. And I got all these other projects, like I mentioned earlier in the show. So taking on something huge is a problem, but I do really enjoy Black Flag. I think it's quite good. Played Dead Estate on Switch. This is a isometric real-time roguelike where it's kind of like an homage to Resident Evil 3 or just Resident Evil, I guess, not specifically 3, although there are some 3 specific elements in there. But it's just really fun. Just really fun. It's straightforward. It controls well. It's cute. It's got good ideas. It's just really well put together. Kinseed, which I talked about a couple weeks ago, which is like Stardew Valley plus 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 19 other things. Now I will say I really liked this one a lot. It started really strong. And then I hit a point at which I'm not sure how to continue the main storyline. And I think that maybe that's a problem with the game, because I think there needs to always be like a main plot story available to you. You can go into your quest log, and I have like 12 side quests lined up, and that's fine. It's okay to do those, and those are fine. But like what I really need is like how to do the mainline thing. And I'm not sure if I just need to rest for a couple days. Maybe it'll pop up automatically, or maybe there's something I missed, or maybe there's something I forgot, because I'm usually playing it at bedtime, and sometimes I forget stuff if there's some important story thing. So I need to figure out how to get the main storyline progressed again. When I was on the main storyline, great stuff. Really loved it. Great animation, great touches. This is definitely kind of a Stardew Valley-like, from people who have studied the genre and have made lots of informed decisions about how to make it better. So I think it's very easy to play, very attractive, a lot of cool ideas. I just don't know how to progress the main story, and maybe that's a me problem. I'm not sure, but otherwise, this is definitely one to watch for. The last one I'm going to mention today is Beast of Reincarnation, which I will talk about in a second. So I'll hold off on comment for that one. I will get to that one as my circle back in just a moment or two. So there you go, guys. BT and Dave, hopefully that gave you something to chew on. Hopefully you've tried some of these, or maybe you heard me talk about them on the show before. But I think every single game that I just mentioned is definitely worth your time. And let me know what you think if you try some of those. Okay. Next up, Tainted Brian / Tainted Brain says, okay, as I'm back home in Ireland, what countries have you lived in, visited, or would like to visit? Well, Brian / Brain, I'm an American, which means I don't go anywhere, because we don't. I meet a lot of folks from other countries, and I talk to a lot of folks from around the world. And I think America is just in kind of a weird situation, because number one, we are very like propagandized and brainwashed to think that nowhere else in the world is as good as it is here, which is an absolute lie. And I think we're only just very recently waking up to that reality. But for decades, for generations, we have been taught that nowhere else in the world is really worth going, because you've got it all right here, because America. And a lot of people just believe that. That's just how we were raised. And if you don't know any different, then you don't know any different. And I think that is supported by our geographical location. We are kind of like, we are isolated on the east and we are isolated on the west. We just have the Atlantic and Pacific. There's nothing there. We have Mexico on the south, and we have Canada on the north. So we are only bordered by 2 countries. Now, that may seem like so what? Because I know a lot of people in other countries have lots of borders and lots of neighbors and lots of other countries nearby, and you like commute back and forth and you meet people. Hello, how you doing? And how are you? And all this stuff, and you learn each other's languages and you try each other's food, and that's all great. And why don't Americans do that? Well, I'll tell you, because America's fucking huge. It's bigger than you think it is. And if you haven't been here, let me tell you, it's 100 times bigger than you think it is, because you can be in this country. And just think of America as like a bunch of like smaller countries smushed together. It's almost like it's not as big as Africa, right? Like Africa is huge, but when you look at a map of Africa, the continent, and you see all those little countries, that's kind of how it feels like over here. Because living in Washington is very different from living in Oregon, which is very different from living in California, which is very different from living in Nevada, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And people in the West Coast live a very different lifestyle from people in the middle, or from the people in the South, or people from the East or the Northeast. And so we've got several different countries within our own country, and it is so large. If you were to drive from, let's say that you're going to drive from my home state, Washington State, across the country to Florida, I mean, it would take you like, I don't know what, like 30 or 50 hours if you didn't sleep. Like if you just drove like a robot straight through, it would take you like 30, 40, 50 hours. In fact, let me check this. Let me just do some fact checking real quick. Okay, I'm back. I went to, the internet. It would take you under optimal conditions, with no traffic, no problems, no bathroom stops, no sleep stops, no eating stops, no gas stops. If you just got in a car and drove, it would take you at least 45 hours of constant driving to get from Washington to Florida. Now, of course, it's much further than that, because like things happen, you got to do bio stuff and whatever. So like it can take you days and days to get across the country, and it's just so huge. So we don't really ever think about We don't need to go to other countries, because if I went to Texas right now, it would be completely foreign to me. I wouldn't know the culture. I wouldn't know the landscape. I wouldn't really know the food. We still basically speak English, but there would be like local dialects of English that would be different. And so we don't really think of like going to other countries. On top of that, we are economically impoverished in this country. Yeah, we have some of the richest, stupid, evil motherfuckers on the planet, but that's a very small number of people. Most people are like paycheck to paycheck, man. Like we don't have enough money to save up for some kind of freaking European vacation. Like most of us right now are like, struggling to pay for our medical bills. We're struggling to pay for food. We're struggling to pay for rent. And not everybody's living large like we are on TV or whatever. And so the idea of saving up money to get on a plane and go to like another country is just not a thing that we do. Um, so I think with all those factors, Americans in general do not travel very much. We don't want to, and even if we wanted to, we're not really able, most of us. And so it's like a really, really, really big deal to go travel to another country. So with all that preamble said, what countries have I lived in, visited, or would I like to visit? Okay, well, I've lived here. I'm in America. I have lived in Washington. I've lived in Oregon. I've lived in California. I've lived in Maine. And I've lived in Hawaii. Those are the places where I've lived. And each one of those places totally different from the other. Like it's pretty fucking different. And in fact, I would even say that living in Hawaii is almost like living in a foreign country. It's like technically the 50th state of America, but boy, it sure does not feel like it. I lived out there for a year, and it's like, it is its own place with its own culture, its own indigenous language, its own indigenous people. I mean, it just does not feel at all like you're in America. Like if you go there and you're like on Waikiki Beach and you're staying at the Hilton, that's one thing. But like when you live there and you drive to the other parts of the island, or you fly between the other islands in the chain, and you talk to the locals and you work there every day and stuff, you see a very different side of it. So Hawaii to me does not feel like part of the states at all. It feels like a foreign country that America has in a headlock is kind of what it feels like. I have visited Canada, and Canada was very nice. Very nice and clean. It reminded me of Seattle, but cleaner. And that was really the only difference. It was like here, but cleaner. And people were like a little bit more friendly, and everything was closed on Sunday. I went up there for a weekend and I'm like, oh, literally nothing's open on Sunday. This sucks. And I stayed in my hotel the whole time. But that's fine. I mean, they take care of their people there. They take a day off, unlike Americans, and I respect that. So I didn't know. That's on me. Didn't realize that. But yeah, Canada was fine. Had some poutine when I was up there. That was good. Bought some maple syrup because that's what you do. And then I came back. So that's about it. That is about it. I've visited a few other states. I mean, I've been to Georgia. I've been to New York. I've been to Florida. I've been to a couple places here and there just for visits, but never really stayed anywhere. Where would I like to visit? Well, I mean, good question. I would like to visit a lot of places. I think Thailand is pretty high up on my list. I would love to visit Thailand. I would love to visit Vietnam. I would love to visit Ireland. Part of my family is from Ireland. I mean, you heard my name, Galloway. That's a bastardization of Galway, which is where part of my family is originally from. I think they just spelled it wrong when the immigrants got to Ellis Island back in the day, and from Galway, it became Galloway somehow. So I would like to check that out. Would like to check out Scotland as well. Those places seem pretty cool to me. And Italy as well. I would like to see Italy, for the food, and some of those coastlines and some of those places just looks absolutely beautiful. Looks just like unreal beautiful. So I think that's my answer. Probably talked more on that than you wanted to hear, but there you go. Let's see. Okay. Moving on. Ron says, what's your ringtone and why did you pick that? Ron, you funny guy. You funny guy. You so funny, Ron. My ringtone is the stock Android ringtone because I am lazy. I have not changed it, and whatever ringtone comes with the phone is the ringtone that I have because reasons. In fact, I'm not even sure I could change the ringtone if I wanted to because I don't know how to use my phone. There you go. Mike says, here's a question I ask a lot of people. Do you find it harder to be a good dad, a good husband, a good podcaster, a good sign language professional, or good to yourself? Okay. Interesting question. So I thought about this for a minute, and let me go through this one by one. Do I find it hard to be a good dad? No. I think I've said this on the show before, but being a dad is basically all I've ever wanted to do. When I was a kid, if you had asked me what I wanted to do, I would have said I wanted to be a dad. And that was true. So I I mean, it was a long road getting there. We're not going to get into those stories now, but it was a long way to becoming a dad. But once I became a dad with the right person, which is my current wife, it was great. No complaints. It was, I mean, I'm not going to say it was like easy, but like it was expected, you know, the changing of the diapers and the getting up at night and the baby throwing up everywhere and all that stuff. But, you know, it was just like such a great time. My wife and I really enjoyed being parents to a young child. My youngest kid is now 18. So that's that. That's not hard. Not hard. Good husband? No, not that's easy. And again, not like it's effortless. I mean, so I guess there's a difference. Like, I mean, I guess it depends how you mean it. Is it hard? No, in the sense of like, I knew how to be a good husband and I knew what to do. Was it always no effort, super easy, painless? No. I mean, you know, you get together with a person, you have your differences, you work them out. Things happen, irritations happen. You're going to have your fights over the years and stuff like that. So, but you know, you patch those things up. And I think in general, I am Mr. Long-term relationship. I am serial long-term relationship. All of my relationships have been long-term ones. I've never been a date or play the field or one night stand kind of guy. Like never, ever, ever. And I think I just instinctively would like to be with a partner, and I think that I'm built for that and I'm good at it. My wife is like my best friend, like literally my favorite person in the whole world, and there's nobody I'd rather spend time with than my wife. And so I think that being a good husband just kind of goes hand in hand with that. So I think that just is natural to me. So not to say that it's effortless, but I think that it was easy for me to be a good husband. Let's see. Let's jump ahead to good sign language professional. Yeah, I mean, not to break my own arm, patting myself on the back, but I'm awesome. I'm awesome at sign language. I'm really, really, really good. I'm definitely an expert for sure. I mean, I know all about it. I teach it. I use it in very different ways. I've done every job imaginable. I've been on like national level stages. I mean, you can see me in certain broadcast performances of things. I'm really good at my job. Was it easy? No. I mean, just like anything, you got to work hard at it. You know, a lot of practice, a lot of failures. I've had my ups and downs, but you know, it was something that I'm really good at. So that wasn't too hard. Good to myself? No, that's easy. I mean, if you guys saw how many action figures I have right now, you'd be like, oh yeah, that guy fucking spoils himself. What a jerk. No, I like myself. I like myself just fine. I work hard. I spend a lot of time doing things, but I live life according to my own principles. Again, we've had our ups and downs. I mean, I am not a guy who has always had a lot of money. My family was pretty poor. We were on welfare for a while. We were homeless for a while. My mom and dad were not great. My dad was like an alcoholic. He was abusive. And so things were kind of rough for a while. And then when I got to be older, I was broke for a while, had to drop out of school because I was broke, going from job to job. I get into interpreting. That goes really well. But even with that, money's hard. Like America's hard. Money's hard. Capitalism is really hard. I mean, I was on assistance for a while. We were going to the food bank for a while. Those were some dark times. So it's not like it's been all fucking bed of roses the whole way. But along the way, I didn't feel like mean to myself or down on myself. I mean, it's just like, I feel like my ethics are in the right place. My head's in the right place. And, problems came up, but I feel like I got through it. And I feel like I like who I am. So that's good. So what does that leave? What does that leave, Mike? What does that leave? That leaves motherfucking podcaster. Out of everything you said, I think podcaster is the hardest thing for me. And that may seem weird stacked up with all those other things you listed, but it is. I think podcaster is the hardest thing for me. I think, so I guess number one, you don't get very much feedback. I don't, maybe if you're like an IGN podcast or something, maybe if you're like one of those huge podcasts that has like 8 million listeners or something like that, maybe they have too much feedback. But, for a smaller podcast like this, we do good numbers, but we're not like the big dog in the room by any stretch of the imagination. We're definitely on the small side, which is fine. You just don't get a lot of feedback. You don't get people saying whether they liked something or they didn't like something or they wanted to hear more of something or less of something. It's really tough to get feedback. And so that kind of like makes it tough to decide what to do with the show. Should I lean more into this? Should I lean more into that? Should I just do whatever I want? And maybe people like it. Maybe they don't. Who knows? I mean, today's episode is a good episode of that, or example of that, where I'm just rambling and rambling. We haven't even got to the games yet. Obviously, if you're still here, then you must be a real fan of the show, and thank you for listening. This is and if this is your first show, let me tell you, this is not the average show. I don't usually ramble for 45 minutes before getting to the games. This is unusual. So you landed on a funny show today. And it's hard to tell sometimes, like, what I think is funny is not always what other people think is funny. What resonates with me is not always what resonates with other people. Is my voice irritating? Is it not irritating? Should I take a deeper dive on games? Should I go lighter? Should I take one game and talk about that for the whole show? Should I talk about 10 games for 5 minutes each? Or like, who knows what? Like, you're completely just making it up as you go. And then as that happens, you've got to get on the content mill. I like to put out a weekly show, and most times that's not a problem because at GameCritics.com we do get tons of review codes. Codes are not usually the problem, but you got to play them. You got to make time in your week to like sit down, think about something, and then God forbid you get a big game that you like a Black Flag or something like that, where it's like, oh fuck, I like this a lot, but it's going to take me 100 hours to finish it. That I can't talk about this one game for the next 5 shows in a row. So you've got to like juggle multiple things. And you do a lot of like PR with people, like, you ask for game codes, you get a game code, then you like record the show, then you send them the link back, and then you look at the next PR email. And I know I talk about this all the time. I bang on about this all the time, and I apologize, but like the level of email when you do a podcast and when you do a games website is unreal. I talk to people who are like usually fellow interpreters or something. They're like, oh, I got so many emails. And I'm like, you don't know anything about emails. Shut up and sit down. Like these other interpreters I talk to who are like, oh, they get like 20, 30 emails a day. Oh my God. And I'm like, are you kidding? I get 20, 30 emails an hour. I get hundreds of emails per day. So like, don't even talk to me about fucking emails. So just keeping up the emails like a full-time job. So I think just the like, what show am I going to do? What I'm going to talk about? Do people even like this? Is anybody even listening? Why am I doing this? What's happening? Who likes this show? What's going on? Who am I? What are we doing here? What does this all mean? Like that, I think the existential questions that go along with doing a podcast, I think is for me personally, the hardest thing. I think just because there's no good feedback, and that's different from the other things, right? When you're a dad, if you have a good relationship with your kid, there's your good feedback right there. If you've got a partner and you have a good relationship, that's your good feedback right there. I'm a good sign language professional. People ask for me all the time. I'm pretty successful. That's good feedback right there. Good to myself. I like myself, and I have a million action figures, which is what I wanted ever since I was a kid. And so that check, that dream is achieved. Good to myself. Yes, there's my feedback. But podcasting, not very much feedback there. Not a lot. So I think that is really my biggest thing. Good question, Mike. That one really made me think about things for a minute, a hot minute. And I think that is my answer. Final answer, podcaster, I think is the hardest thing to do just because it's just like, it doesn't have the immediate connection, feedback loop responses that the other things in my life do. So there you go. All right. Hopefully I answered everyone's questions. Thank you so much for sending all those over in the Discord. Really appreciate that very much. And also really appreciate anybody who is listening after all of that. Why does anybody listen to me? I don't know, but you're still here. So love you much. Let's see. What do I got to do before I get to the new stuff? YouTube is still a thing. youtube.com/@gamecritics.com videos. Please check that out. And I'll give you all the rest of this stuff that we like to talk about at the end of the show. Let's get to it. I kept you waiting long enough. Let's get to circlebacks. Let's see. This is part of the show where I circle back to stuff I've covered in depth on previous episodes. Not going to do all the details again. This is just a quick update to let you know my thoughts have changed on something for better or for worse after spending more time with it. All right, just one circle back this week. Beast of Reincarnation, which I talked about last week. This is the third person, I don't know, quasi Souls-like, although I'm not even sure what that label means anymore these days, action game from Game Freak, the people who make Pokemon. They're breaking away from Pokemon. I mean, I'm sure they're still doing Pokemon. How could you ever give up that cash cow? But this is one of their side projects. Went into the details of this one last week, so I'm going to just kind of briefly cover it. Still playing it, still chipping away. It's taking me longer than I thought. Number one, just because I haven't had a lot of time. But this is a weird game. I think this game is probably going to end up being a lot longer than it needs to be, is my gut feeling. But that said, I am still really enjoying it. And I am currently trying to figure out how much I need to mainline and how much I need to explore. So you are this girl who has no emotions or memory, which is kind of a tired trope, but whatever. You have a spirit friend, a dog friend, another friend, and then you're driving around in like a Metal Gear Walker type thing between levels, and you've got a driver there. So you've got a team, you've got a base. I like the base. I like coming back to base. It's a really nice touch because you can grow food, you kind of like rest and recuperate, you polish up your weapons and stuff like that. It's nice to have that. So I like that feeling. And then when you go back into the world, it does feel like you're exploring. It does feel like you're exploring this kind of post-apocalyptic nature reclaimed area, which is really good. I like that feeling a lot. I think the traversal is really fun. I think they're onto something here. You have a lot of kind of non-standard traversal where you run and dodge and jump. But when you jump, if you hold the button, a little vine grows up from the ground and boosts you up. So it's not quite a double jump. It's like a jump and then a vine just like shoots you into the air, which is really cool and fun. Gets you very, very high up off the ground. You can also, before too long, you'll get an extra power where you can grow vines that go along the ground and hit guys. But also, if you're up somewhere high, you send the vines out and they make this giant vine bridge so you can cross these gaps. So you've got this instant bridge and an instant boost anywhere you need one. And it feels very different than other games navigation. It just feels very cool and neat and different, and it works really well. I think the character moves really well. I think the fighting is good. Countering is very easy to do. You've got lots of weapons. Well, you've got a bow and a crossbow, and your sword is basically what you do. So you have lots of techniques, lots of different abilities to do along with those. So I think that all works really well. I think the story is interesting. It is very much like a Nier type post-human story. I don't know exactly where it's going. I've got some guesses, but I mean, a large part of it is humans putting their souls into robots to survive some kind of a plague or something. And that, that's not good. We all know that's not good. It's not going to lead anywhere good. So that's part of it. So I think overall it's really good. I like it a lot. Still playing it, still chipping away at it. But I think, so a couple things. I think it's limited in some ways. I feel like I'm wanting to use a different weapon, but the sword is the weapon you have. You have different swords, but they're all basically identical. You can do the same abilities with each sword. The only difference between them is like the special ability that happens when you successfully parry. One of them will do like extra damage on the third hit. One will do extra damage on the fourth hit. One of them will give you life back for 5 seconds while you're counterattacking. One of them will summon down lightning bolts, etc. So you get like some various effects. Some are better than others. But you're going to be using that sword. You're going to be a sword user. So don't think you're going to be switching a bunch of weapons out. You switch armor. Armor does not change the way you look, which is kind of a bummer. But you do have a lot of techniques. There's a lot of techniques to use. And I'm still enjoying the combat. But I do feel like, having a different weapon would be kind of fun. Or maybe changing your look a little bit would be fun. I think the only cosmetic thing you can do is take your hat off. Hat on, hat off, I think is the only thing that I've discovered so far. So I think that's a little limited. As for the exploration, it gives you a sense, especially in the first level, that they really want you to explore these big areas and just kind of like pick it apart and see what you can see, which is really cool. And I dig that. But they kind of change it up on you. The first level is massive and you feel like, holy shit, this game is enormous. But then you go to the second level and the third level, and I'm only on third level right now. I'm almost done with it. And it's much, much smaller. So they scale back a little bit and they do start to feel a little bit linear in a way that maybe the game kind of fools you with, because you always know what you're supposed to do for your main quest. And if you do that, it's fine. But there's all these little side areas that you can find. And sometimes you can explore them and sometimes you can't. I found a couple side areas where I try to go there and it's a dead end. And then I go do some story stuff and I come back and it's no longer a dead end. And that feels cheap to me. I feel like if it's there to be explored, and I'm not talking like I came back with a key. I'm just like, there wasn't a door there and now there is a door there. Like it's like that kind of thing. Or there's just no way forward and now there is a way forward. So it's not like I'm getting a key and coming back or something. So I don't like that feeling of I am now unsure how I should be exploring. I can't just poke into every corner because sometimes it feels like a waste of time because I'm here when I'm not supposed to be here yet. And I didn't know that. And I think the game's messaging on that is a little bit mixed. They really seem to push you towards exploring in level 1, and then they kind of really pull back on that in level 2, and they haven't recovered yet. So I think that's a little bit of a bummer. I will also say in some areas, it hasn't happened a bunch, but it has happened, and it has been a little bit notable. You'll hit like an invisible wall sometimes, and it's just like, oh, dude, that's a bummer. Like I wish they had done something else. For example, I was in this elevator area, and I'm like, oh man, this is pretty high up. And my character doesn't do any fall damage, but I do have this little vine jump thing I can do. And I've got this bridge I can make. Let me see if I can kind of like kludge my way down here and see what's down here. And as soon as I tried it, invisible wall, can't even go down the ledge. And I'm like, ugh, okay, that sucks. There's another part too where I was exploring a forest and I got to the edge of the forest and I was trying to see on the map. It looked like there might have been some area there. I wasn't quite sure. Get to the edge of the forest, invisible wall. I'm like, ugh, okay, no more invisible wall, folks. So I'm hitting limits, and maybe this is like a side project for them. They couldn't pour a million resources into it, which I get. But I think they're really onto something here. I think the movement, the navigation is just really traversal is just really cool. I think having your dog companion is cool. I think the story is generally cool. A lot of it is working for me, big time, and I definitely want to see it through. Although I like I said, I suspect this game is probably going to be at least twice as long as it needs to be by the time I've gotten to the end of it. But I'm not tired of it yet, so we'll see. We shall see. I will say also, quick side note, that I do not like the cutscenes. I think they take too long. They are too slow. There are too many cutscenes where someone is like staring contemplatively at something. They've got that very stereotypical Japanese thing where they just kind of like sit there and say things quietly and think deep thoughts, and they're just contemplating things, and it just, oh, Mike, I like, enough, dude, like enough. Like, I get that I'm a dumb American and I need things to be like really faster paced, but like it's ponderous. It's a lot, and almost all of them are like that so far. We don't have a lot of like upbeat cutscenes. Like, it's a lot of like inner monologuing and thinking and stuff, and I need that to go really faster. I will say that I have turned on the English voiceover track, which I almost never do. When I play a game from a country that is not America, I usually turn on the subs and I turn on whatever the native language is. So like when I'm playing, a lot of the Eastern European Eurojank stuff, I'll turn on like whatever language that is, and then have the English subtitles. When I'm playing stuff from Japan, I usually turn on Japanese voiceover and have English subtitles. I watch sub movies all the time, so I don't have a problem with subtitles. And in fact, we usually have closed caption on our TV on 24/7 just because we just do. So reading is not the problem, but like, man, the Japanese voiceovers, they're just like so listless and so empty and so devoid of emotion. And I get that's part of the story. It's just like too much. So I turned on the English voiceovers, and they're very different. They have much more emotion, much more nuance, at least to my American ear. And I'm leaving those on. I think I'm going to stick with those. Those are working for me. And I just need a little more juice in those cutscenes because, man, they're hard to sit through sometimes. They're very long and there's too many of them. So, but overall, I'm not trying to sound negative because I actually really do like Beast of Reincarnation quite a bit. I think I like it more than most people. I know that John over at Game of the Wild is a huge fan of it. He's probably the biggest fan of this game so far. And so he and I think are definitely on Team Beast right now, which is great. And I'm definitely a fan. I definitely would like to see this through. I would like to see where it goes. I think it's interesting. I like what they're doing with the world, the ambiance. I like the movement. So I'm definitely going to hang with it so I can get to the end, and we'll see where this goes, and I'll report back later on. Yeah. Okay. There we go. That is my only circle back for the show, and we're going to get on to new stuff right now. All right. The new stuff is a little thin this week for obvious reasons. Just been pretty busy, but I do have a couple things worth talking about. The first one is Tail Spinner. This one, I have not played very much of, full disclosure. I think it's pretty cool, and I would like to dive a little deeper into this one before I really share, like, my greater thoughts or whatever. We can touch on it really quickly, and I think it's cool that people just know about this one. So in a preliminary sense, preview sense, I guess, let's talk about Tail Spinner. This is a 2D deck builder with a lot of similarities to Slay the Spire. It's so funny. Slay the Spire is so funny. It's tangent. I know I've talked about this before. If you heard me talk about this on the show, here I go again. But man, I never predicted. I had no idea how influential Slay the Spire was going to be on the roguelike genre, on the deck building genre, on indies in general. I remember seeing it at PAX for so many years and thinking, man, what a weird game. And it just looks terrible, and they really need to get this thing together. And then boom, it basically sets the bar for everything that comes afterwards. Crazy. You just never know. Anyway, Tail Spinner takes a lot of cues from Slay the Spire, which is fine because, as I always say, if you're going to steal from the best. So basically, you are one of 3 characters. This whole game has a very strong Asian theme. I don't know specifically if there's a specific country they're targeting, but, definitely like cherry blossoms and people wearing like, Asian type robes and swords and stuff like that. It's got a very strong Asian theme. I don't have specifics though. You choose from one of these three characters. The first guy is like a bruiser type guy. He does like a lot of like heavy attacks and endurance shielding kind of a thing. He's like a monk of some kind, but he also looks like an ogre a little bit. The second character is a lady in a fox mask, and she has like sword attacks and stuff like that, but she also has a little magic lotus. It starts out every turn as a bulb, lotus bulb. I don't know if they actually are bulbs, but it starts out as a bulb. And then some of her cards will have a little symbol on them that gives the lotus power. So the lotus is like outside of the field of battle. It's kind of just like a status thing. And so she'll attack, and each one of those sword swipes gives the lotus an ability, and it makes the lotus bloom a different color. And so the lotus has 4 different stages. It's like, or 5 different stages. Bulb, which does nothing. The first one means if you activate the lotus, whatever card you use it on will not be discarded. The second stage means whatever card you use the lotus on costs 1 less ability point. Third stage is double damage if it's an attack, and fourth stage is whatever card it is will go twice. So you've got to manage your lotus count per turn. The bummer thing about this, and maybe this changes, is that it resets every turn. So you have to kind of like maneuver things in order to get extra turns in order to trigger the 4th level of lotus. 3 is usually probably the most you're going to be doing most of the time. So you manage her whole flower thing. That's her whole thing. The first guy, like I said, kind of a bruiser. He's got some abilities where he can like tank damage and it buffs him up and stuff, but he's pretty straightforward. And then the last one, pretty interesting, is a boy who looks like he might be some kind of a demon, and he's with a giant snake, which kind of looks like a ghost snake. And so it's 2 characters. They each have their own life bar, and then you can swap positions. And only the person in front takes damage. So if the kid's in front, he takes the hit. If the snake is in front, the snake takes the hit. And then they have a lot of like teamwork ability cards, like maybe like one where the kid will, if he's in the rear, he will jump to the front and do a sword swipe. Or sometimes if the kid needs some protection and he's in the front, then the snake will slither around from the back and jump in front of him to take the hit, so forth and so on. So interesting character selection. I think the art style is really quite good too. It looks like it's like hand drawn, kind of. I hesitate to say on the simple side because I feel like I'm not trying to throw shade in any way at all. I think it's just kind of like very clean, straightforward, really like, hand drawn kind of style. And I like the colors and the simplicity of it. I think it looks really attractive. That fits like the Asian theme, I think. And so you have, I think the game begins with like 3 different levels, and they're called story twists, I think. I mean, the game is called Tail Spinner, so of course there's going to be some kind of a narrative thing involved. I haven't been able to access the last 2 yet. I'm still in the first one, and the first one says something like, a lady's been spotted in the mountains and it's freezing up there, and it kind of looks like she's maybe a bad guy or something like that. And that's all you know. And then you start playing, action plays out pretty straightforwardly, very much like Slay the Spire or any recent, deck building type game. It's good in that it follows a lot of the same footsteps sensibly. Like you can move your cursor around the screen and you'll read about any of the elements on screen, which is great because there's a lot of elements. It's easy to forget what they are. And you get little tool tips and stuff, which really help you along, which I think is really, really necessary. Otherwise, it would be just so easy to forget exactly what was going on. So that's good. I think the UI is really good, clean, easy to read the cards, actions easy to read. I think status is really easy to read. It all follows in the Slay the Spire template. I mean, and I'm not just being facetious when I say that. I mean, like the way that the screen is set up follows that way. The way you're looking at your cards follows the same way. The way you move your cursor kind of follows the same way. Like it feels very much like it is following the template laid by Slay the Spire in basically all aspects. So, take that for whatever it's worth. And then as you go from level to level, the one place where it diverges, which I think is interesting, is that it does not have the map with nodes, which again is from Slay the Spire, and like basically every single roguelike on Earth has copied it. It has a very simple screen, and below the screen are a number of symbols, and above the screen are a number of empty spaces. So you choose what symbol you want to do, and then you put them in the quote unquote map where you want it to go, and then you follow through and do those things. So for example, you have a blank spot on the left, and down below you've got battle, elite battle, random event, shop, campfire for healing, or something like that. Something like that. Pretty close. So you look at your character at the moment and you go, so what do I need most? Am I strong? Okay, I can do a battle. If I'm real strong, maybe I'll do the elite battle, get some better rewards. Oh, if I've taken some hits up until this point, oh, I'm gonna go for a fire, campfire instead and heal my life back up. Or if you got a bunch of money, you're like, I'm gonna put the shop there. So you can kind of determine yourself within reason. I mean, you can't just do like campfire, 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 campfire all the way to the boss. I mean, there's a limit to it. But within reason, you can kind of self-select and determine what you want to do, when you want to do it. And I think that's a pretty clever spin that I don't know that I've seen any other game do. So I think that particular piece of originality should be celebrated. So liking that a lot so far. I'm going to put a pin in this for now because I have I completed a run? I feel like I've completed one run with the Jade Ogre Monk guy. I think oh man, I haven't played it for a couple days, but I've barely scratched the surface with the lady with the lotus flower, and I have not barely scratched the surface with the kid and the snake. So I need to like put this game through its paces a little bit more, find out where it diverges, what it brings to the table, how the mechanics play out. It feels a little bit complicated so far, not super complicated. But I think in a deck builder, and especially a game like this specifically, it's got to be very easy to mentally absorb what's going on. And I feel like a lot of deck builders get too complicated. Too many conditions, too many if-thens, too many but-ifs. And I don't like it when they get super, super complicated. It's got to be able to pick up and put down. And so far, it seems like Tailspinner will be okay with that. I think the Lotus Lady is a little bit verging on a little bit complicated because I have to keep checking the Lotus Flower status every single time, and that's kind of annoying. But otherwise, put a pin in this for now. I'll come back to it. I think it seems pretty high quality so far. I'm liking it. I'm enjoying what I'm seeing. I just need to see more. Just straight up haven't had the raw time. So I'll come back to it. Heads up, Tailspinner is a thing that exists. I'm playing it on the Switch 2. Runs perfectly there. It's a beautiful fit for the Switch 2. I'm sure it's on other platforms as well. But if you're looking for an Asian-themed Slay the Spire-like, this one is definitely your ticket. And from all accounts, it seems like it's going to turn out to be pretty solid. So I'll circle back in the future when I've put some more hours into it. There you go. That is Tailspinner. Last game of the show here, I know it's a short one, is Monsters Are Coming. This came out a while ago on PC and Xbox. No. Game Pass for PC. And it just came out for Xbox, the console. This game sticks out in my memory pretty clearly because I saw a trailer for it and I thought, oh, that looks pretty neat. I'd love to give that a try. And we got PR for it. So I noticed it when it came in my inbox and they was like, oh yeah, it's available for Game Pass. And I'm like, okay, cool. Can I get a piece of that? And so the publisher sent me like a code and then it redeemed, but then it disappeared and I couldn't find it and I didn't know what happened. And that happens sometimes with Xbox games, but you can usually track it down pretty quickly. And I could not track it down and I didn't know what was happening. And it was just like we went round and round and we couldn't figure out what the problem was. And it eventually turns out that PR was being a little bit sloppy when they were initially repping the game because, yeah, it came out for Game Pass for PC. So at the time that I was trying to like redeem the code and figure out where the game went, it wasn't even Xbox playable. And so that was like super annoying when I finally figured out. I'm like, oh, why did you guys just freaking say PC? Because, clearly Game Pass is, even though it's Microsoft's, system and it does like function as the, framework for their service, not every game is available on every platform. Some PC games on Game Pass are not available on Xbox and vice versa. So I just remember that being kind of a weird like omission on the PR side and it causing me some headache. But the game is now officially out for Xbox, the console, and I already had it because I had the code from before. So I'm like, okay, cool. Going to download this and check it out. So what is it? It's an interesting one. It is kind of like a roguelike, kind of not, kind of grindy, kind of not. So basically there seems to be like almost a story to the game. And I really wish the developers had leaned into the story just a little bit more because I think what they've got is a pretty cool framework here. There's some kind of problem in the world, some kind of catastrophe happening. I'm not sure exactly what, but you have to help load cities, actual cities, into an ark. So how this works is you start at the top of the screen. You choose a character. Each character has a bunch of different abilities. Then you choose a building, and each building has a bunch of abilities. And then you start the game, and your building is at the top of the screen, and you gotta go downwards. It's a kind of a vertically scrolling type of game. But the building you choose is on wheels. And so let's say, for example, you choose the guardsman, who has a straightforward sword attack and has a little bit of bonus life because he's tough. He chooses, I don't know, the belfry or something, the building where it has no special abilities, but it has like extra life or something like that, like the most basic run. So the belfry appears in the middle of this road, and it has wheels in the bottom of it, and you're looking from like a top-down perspective, and then it just starts rolling, and you have to guard it through 3 sections of road before it can get to the arc. And the arc is where you're going, and if you make it to the arc, your entire town will be loaded onto the boat. So that's the premise. Pretty cool premise. Kind of reminds me of oh gosh, what's that? Mortal Engines, that show that came out a while ago, the movie. I guess it was based on a comic book where like these giant cities are like rolling around in the desert, post-apocalyptic. If you haven't seen Mortal Engines, it's pretty cool. I'm not going to say it's the best movie out there, but the special effects are pretty bonkers, and just seeing these giant cities rolling around is pretty fucking cool. So this reminds me a lot of like Mortal Engines, except you don't have any control over the city. You're just the person. So the city starts rolling, and you need to collect stuff from the side of the road. Collect stone to build its life back up. And you can stockpile the stone too, which is great. So if you have full life and you keep getting stone, you just build up a little stockpile, and somebody damages you, you just use the stone from the stockpile. Good. You also need wood, which depending on the mode, if you have wood in general, it makes your weapons fire faster. The city's weapons fire faster. So the city has its own like basic weapon. Each city has like one weapon to start, and it'll auto fire just like a survivor's like. And then you have your one weapon to start. The guardsman has a sword, and that'll auto fire on its own as well. But if you get more wood, that city's weapon will fire faster, and you can increase this. So this is all kind of straightforward. The city travels downwards. You got to protect it, kill any monsters that come close, collect wood, collect stone. That seems pretty straightforward. The hook to this is that as you go down the city or the road, you can get different upgrades. Upgrades for your guy, longer sword, bigger sword, more damage, more run speed, etc., etc. But also you will get different components to the city. So like you start off with a pretty small chunk of city. And then let's say you get like a guard tower that has a crossbow. You definitely want a crossbow. More firepower means more survivability. So you add the crossbow to your city, and so all of a sudden your city is like bigger. You're like adding blocks to it. You can get like ramparts, which absorb damage. You get little minion spawning areas. You can stick those on, and your city gets bigger and bigger and bigger and more unwieldy as it goes. So you can try to design like maybe a narrow city, because you don't want to have the city to be too wide to get caught on stuff on the side of the road. Or maybe you want it wide, but you want it shallow, so you don't have to defend a very wide piece of property. Or maybe you just want to keep it small, so you want to minimize how many things you add to your city. So there's a little bit of strategy along with that, I think, which is pretty cool. And then, you get to the arc at the end, you load it up, and from what I can tell, and this is why I wish the developers leaned into the story a little bit more. I wish they were just more clear about, hey, we want you to do this, and here's why, and here's what's going on, and here's a little bit of narrative every time you make it. I've completed, I think, 4 or 5 runs so far on this one, and it seems to be that they're only loading one of each kind of city into the boat. So for example, you start with the belfry. My very first run, I beat it, and I'm like, okay, cool. You see the belfry loaded into the arc. That's neat. I used the belfry again on the very next run, and nothing got loaded. So you cannot fill the boat with like 12 of the same building. So you have to like unlock more buildings, and then I guess you just need to fill it up with at least one of each different kind of building before the arc is ready to go. And then where does it go? I don't know. I mean, I guess you roll credits at that point. But I wish the developers just told me a little bit more about the world and about, what's going on. Otherwise, I think the graphics are good. They're very readable and clear. I think your guy controls just fine. It has a lot of like survivors like auto attacking, which is just fine. They're not real big on tutorials. They're not really big on telling you what things do. Sometimes you'll come across something in the road and you're like, I'm not sure what this does. But, you know, your interactions are basically attack or ignore it, so you can figure those out pretty quickly. Every so often, you'll get a pit stop where you can top up your life, and then you get a choice of either doing nothing or going into one of a couple different battle arenas. And if you win the battle, then you get extra resources for your city. If you're low on money, you get some money. You're low on stone, you get some stone. You're low on wood, you get some wood, etc., etc. So that's pretty good. So I think overall it's really fun. I do really enjoy playing this game, although I am concerned it may not have the legs, because a lot of the game is locked behind just various unlocks. And a lot of these unlocks are like grindy unlocks. It's like chop down 1,000 trees, or blow up 1,000 enemies, or, you know, finish level 3 with 5 different buildings and stuff like that. It just really hits you in the face quickly with like a lot of like checklist stuff to do, rather than giving me narrative reasons. I mean, I get you can only have so much narrative for something like this, but you know, if there's a little cutscene to look forward to, or, you know, something other than just give me like this giant to-do list to check off, which is not the most motivating thing in the world. I mean, to be fair, it's a fun game. I really enjoy playing it. I've like I said, I've completed 4 or 5 runs. I'm looking forward to playing some more. I just wish there was more mental buy-in. It feels like a mechanical thing to play with, and it's fairly well put together, and it's you know, the gameplay proposition is pretty clear on its face. I just wish I felt more emotionally attached to it. I wish I felt more emotionally attached to my character, or to the city, or to the plight of the people, or, you know, it's just not very mentally engaging in that way. I don't feel anything for the characters or the people in the city or anything. So I wish I'd leaned into that a little bit more. That would have been pretty cool. Not a ton, just a little bit. But as it is, it's a pretty solid mechanical experience, and it's pretty fun. I don't know that I'm going to actually finish it all the way enough to get the arc, you know, off to wherever it's going, because, you know, I'm just not super into like, okay, well, I blew up 500 guys on the last run. I need to blow up 500 more. So I'm going to do like a grenade build, and I'll do that. Or, you know, oh, I need to use the woodsman because I need to chop down 5,000 more trees. And so the next run is going to be all about tree chopping. And, you know, I mean, that's fine. That's fine. It works for a lot of people. There's nothing inherently wrong with it, but it just doesn't, you know, I don't know, doing the checklist kind of thing just doesn't really do it for me all the time. So now that I've seen how the game works, and I've gotten 4 or 5 of the towns to the arc, I'm like, okay, I get it. I'm not done with it yet. I don't feel done with it, but also I feel like if I'm just going to be grinding for a while, that'll turn me off of it pretty quickly. So I guess we'll wait and see what happens. But for the moment, still having a pretty good time with it. So that is Monsters Are Coming. And I will circle back on this one if I have anything more significant to say. We'll see. I may end up putting it down if it's too much of a grind, but I would like to play some more. We'll see. We'll see. All right, folks, game portion of the show is officially done, but as y'all know, every week I do spend a few minutes in front of screens that don't have menus or life bars. That's right. It's time for the TV and movie roundup. Before I get to the TV movie roundup, actually, this was like a late edition. I want to just give a quick shout out to Mattel, the toy company, for creating the Snake Lair, which I just got in the mail maybe a day ago. In case you don't know, I am a huge Masters of the Universe fan, or He-Man as he's more commonly known. I have been a fan ever since he dropped on shelves in 1982. So I've been a fan for all these 40 plus years that he's been around. Definitely a big hardcore fan. Movie came out recently, which is great. I don't know if I ever talked about it here on the show. I did watch the Masters of the Universe movie, which is now streaming on Amazon. Fantastic. Loved it. Great job. Very few notes. I thought it was a win overall. But the Snake Lair is a new playset. It is a new playset for the toy line. Now, I'm sure most people in general, even if you don't know He-Man very well, you've probably seen Castle Grayskull. Probably the most iconic toy playset in history, perhaps. I think that's maybe not too much of a statement to make. I think basically everybody at some point in their life has seen a Castle Grayskull, or has played with one, or at least knows of it. It's pretty fucking iconic. So that came out, with the debut of the line. They followed that up with Snake Mountain, which was Skeletor's evil hideout. And then we had other things. Hordak had his Fright Zone, and so forth and so on. But we haven't had a brand new castle / playset / hideout for basically 40 years. If you want to count the Eternia playset, which was the last big playset, one of the biggest playsets ever constructed, actually, towards the end of Masters of the Universe. That came out in 1986. And if you want to be really super, super technical, there was another playset after that for the new Adventures of He-Man, which is not the same thing as actual He-Man. They're very, very, very different. But there was a Starship Eternia playset, which is actually pretty ballin'. It's pretty nice. I have one. It's dope. But it's not the same thing. That came out in 1989. So no matter how you want to slice it, we're basically talking about 40 years since we got a brand new castle / hideout / playset type thing. And this is pretty dope, dude. I really like it a lot. There's some history behind it. I don't have to get into that here. I know that not everybody listening is a He-Man fan like I am. But there was some, ups and downs. It had some trouble. Mattel had to crowdfund it. I was happy to chip in. Luckily, I was able to afford it. And it finally got through production after extended delay. I feel like it's been pretty close to 2 years since we, got the crowdfund passed. So it's definitely been a bit of a wait. But it's so cool, so neat. As somebody who's been a fan of this property for 40 years, the fact that it's still a property, number one, is amazing. I mean, how many toy lines have gone defunct? How many things, how many hobbies, how many interests, how many IPs have gone away? Sometimes they last a couple years, sometimes 5-10 years, but something that lasts 40 years is pretty significant. So I feel like very, very fortunate to be a fan of this IP that is still putting out new TV, new movies, new toys. It's so cool to be a part of that. And just the feeling of like being able to get a brand new thing that can go right across from Castle Grayskull and Snake Mountain. We now have this the Snake Lair, which is awesome. It's just so I don't know, just what a moment, for me anyway, as a moment, like nostalgia for sure, fond memories of like playing with He-Man as a kid for sure, but also just that this thing that I love and have loved for so long is still alive and kicking. It's just like the best feeling. So shout out to Mattel for creating the Snake Lair. Check it out. Google it if you wish. It's kind of in the same shape as Castle Grayskull. It's like a clamshell, opens up in the middle. You got all sorts of like stuff inside of it, ladders and zip lines and thrones and torture pits and all that stuff. Just all the stuff a growing child needs, right? It's really good stuff. It's a lot of fun. I love He-Man. I love Masters Universe. This is good times. So yeah, was it worth the 40-year wait? I'd say so. Okay. Getting back to actual movies and TV. Started watching Psych, the TV show starring James Roday and Dule Hill. This was pretty big for a while. I think it ran for ultimately 9 seasons, and I think they did 2 or 3 movies and a couple specials after that. This is about Sean Spencer, whose father is a police detective, and he raised Sean to be extremely adroit with his observational skills. Very expert in like taking in his surroundings, noticing details, noticing all sorts of little bits and bobs that other people miss because they're just not observant. But he's not an actual police officer. He uses these powers of observation, which are based in reality, to pretend that he is a psychic. So that's the jam. He notices things that the cops don't notice. And in order to tell them these things, they're not going to listen to him just if he's just some guy. So he pretends to be psychic and they hire him to like do these cases. It's a comedy. It's really funny. It's very sassy and smart and quick and witty. And it's just a really, really good time. I love Psych. It was really popular. It still is popular. It's got quite a large fan base even today. And it's good stuff. If you've never seen it, give it a look. It's good. And I think I mentioned in the Discord recently that I bought the DVD collection because everybody seems to be leaning into nobody owns anything anymore. Like corporate wants to take all this stuff away from us. Stuff we purchase isn't a purchase. We're only buying licenses to look at stuff temporarily. Fuck all that. So all that's doing is making me go back to physical media. So we bought the first season of Psych on Apple TV like a million years ago. And we came back to it to restart watching it. And there was like all sorts of commercials stuffed into it. There was like 4 commercial breaks, even though we quote unquote like bought this on Apple TV. So I was like, fuck it, whatever. So we ended up buying the DVD, the complete series DVD. It cost a fraction of what it would cost to buy the whole thing on Apple TV. So not only do I get to actually own this thing because I got the motherfucking physical discs in my hand, there's no commercial, no one can take it away, and it was actually cheaper to boot. So that's fine, whatever. I'm happy to go back to buying DVDs or Blu-ray or whatever And fuck all this download nonsense if they're going to keep acting like this. This is stupid. So back to physical for Psych. Otherwise, we watched a movie called Ick. This is starring one of the guys, Brandon Routh, I think it is. It's one of the guys that played Superman, and I was getting mixed up. I think it's Brandon Routh. This is a political satire commentary horror movie about this stuff that's growing in this town. It is all over the town. It is like this gross, black, tarry, weird, disgusting stuff that's just all over the place. And people just go around and step over it and drive around it and duck under it or whatever. And nobody does anything about it. And it's just horrifying looking. And people think it's harmless at first. But then the stuff activates after a while and it starts killing everybody. And they have to, like, survive the ick and get out of town and figure out what to do about it. It's a pretty effective horror/horror comedy on its own. Brandon Routh is a good actor, and they kind of go back and forth between time periods where he's older, which is modern Brandon Routh in real life, and when he was in high school. And it's the funniest thing. They just they don't do anything to de-age him other than they put a wig on him, and it's like the funniest thing. And I think they intend it that way. I mean, I think they know they're only going to get away with so much, and that we all kind of just like wink and go along with the premise that he is younger Brandon. But anyway, it's a real like 90s homage. They have like basically every popular song from the decade of the 90s in this movie. I have no idea. They must have spent 3/4 of the budget on music licensing all on its own. The music is just like ridiculous. Every big song is in this movie. But it's really about like modern America. It's about politics, right? Like we all know, we can all see the disgusting stuff that's going on around us. And so many of us don't do anything about it. We step over it, we walk around it, we duck under it. And that's really what the ick is all about. It's really just about, how do we deal with this disgusting like cancer that's permeating our country? And if we don't do anything about it, it's eventually going to come and kill us all. So I think it's a pretty effective statement. I think it works on multiple levels, and it's fun. It's funny. It's not like super preachy. It's not dry. It's not boring. I think it was a really good movie. And if you like horror comedies, or you like the 90s, you got 90s nostalgia, you like 90s music, this will be just for you. I think it's a pretty fun watch for sure. Last movie of the show, Toxic Avenger, the remake. I wasn't really super aware of this, but we came across it as we were scrolling through the online services. I guess Peter Dinklage was the main star in a remake of the Toxic Avenger. Also had like Elijah Wood, Kevin Bacon, and a couple other stars where I'm like, what are these people doing in this movie? This is fucking weird. As much of a horror fan as I am, I've actually never seen the original Toxic Avenger. It's one of those ones that like has always been on my list to watch, and I've never seen it, but we went straight to this one instead. Peter Dinklage plays a guy who's like down on his luck, having some problems, money problems, family problems. He falls into some goop and becomes the toxic Avenger to come back and clean up the town. There's not much more to it than that, and I don't think there really needs to be. I think it's very funny, though. My wife was doing the IMDb thing as we were watching the movie, and Peter Dinklage is he's like a little person, and so he's doing that whole thing. When he falls into the goop and becomes the Toxic Avenger, he gets like green and goopy and deformed. And I was looking at him, I'm like, man, he looks like he grew a little bit. I wonder if that's just the makeup or prosthetics or something. But the wife was reading, and she found out they found another bigger little person to do like all of the stunt work for him. So he acts in the beginning of the movie, and then he transforms, and then the bigger little person takes over for him underneath all the 30-pound suit. And he gives his voice to all of the acting, which is kind of funny, I thought. But it's good. It's like way over the top. He's like destroying people's heads, and there's grossness and lots of killing and gore and blood. And it's just goofy and fun. And it's just a really good time. The wife and I laughed a lot. It's silly. So now I'm kind of inspired to go back and watch the original Toxic Avenger and see if it's along the same lines. I'm sure it must be. I've heard about it forever. I feel like I've already seen it 1,000 times, except I haven't. So I just need to like check that box and just get it watched. So I'll probably watch that soon. But yeah, the one with Dinklage is pretty good. It was kind of uneven. I mean, there was like some parts where it could be tightened up, and some of the jokes didn't quite land or whatever. But overall, it was just like a hoot and a holler, and it was just funny to see these guys getting destroyed by his radioactive mop, and him ripping arms off, and blood going all over the place and stuff. It's just a wholesome good time. You know how it goes. All right, folks, that is a show. Before the closing music, we'd love for you to leave reviews, share the show on social media, but most important of all, please recommend the show to your friends, because nothing beats good old word of mouth. And as always, would love to get your questions and your comments. Hit me up directly, SoVideoGamesPodcast@gmail.com. You can also hit me on social media. Also on Instagram and Blue Sky. It's my name, BradGallaway, all A's, no O's. You can also get me in the So Video Games Discord, which is totally free of charge to join. Just drop me a line through any of the means I've just mentioned, and we'll get you on board to continue the conversation. And before I move on to the next thing, once again, just want to circle back and give a huge shout out to the people who are sponsoring the show. Zolbrod and Incident Electron are the newest people to join and to up their tier. And also a huge, huge, huge thanks to everybody else who chips into the show. I really, really, really genuinely appreciate it. Every single dollar just goes to keeping the show going, and also GameCritics.com as well. So I really, really love that. So if you like this episode, you want to hear more like those handsome, sexy folks who have just upped their tier and joined for the first time, you can help support this very show and GameCritics.com by going over to patreon.com/the So Video Games Podcast. Every single dollar helps, and €1 helps that much more. And thank you again from the bottom of my heart. All right, folks, that's going to do it for episode 501. Thank you for joining me here on the So Video Games Podcast, and I'll see you next week.